In this situation, the house is leaking in maybe 7 or 8 different areas. This is a fairly new roof. It was recently sold, and now it's a lawsuit. So we're here representing the buyers. The sellers have already acknowledged that there's problems. This is just poor workmanship. And you'll see some stuff. There's one panel they made too short, just a straight panel too short. There's other places on the back where it's a little more complex. There's some windows, but you know, when you re-roof, if you're going to open up somebody's roof and you're going to open up somebody's wall, you have to make sure that the flashings, the transitions, everything about it is there. It's the walls, it's the flashings, it's the pipe penetrations, it's all those details that people mess up on, and that's where it's really gone wrong here. We think we even have a problem at the ridge because there's a big bad damage spot on the inside on the ridge. All the kitchen cabinets are going to have to come out because it wall damaged, you know, it got in the walls, the drywall behind the kitchen cabinets. When you have a roof leak, it's a major, major deal, and roofers don't know what they don't know. Because they roof, they go on, they roof, they go on, they roof, they go on. They don't come back on repairs. You guys get to see these things. Right, so you got 1, 2, 3 short panels. So the edge right there where he's pointing is water just runs in. We've got a leak in the side of the house somewhere in this area. Don't know if it's the ridge, it could actually be this pipe, something like that. Let's take the ridge off and see if we find any moisture underneath right here. And there's no pop rivets holding the ridge on. So eventually this would be expanding and contracting and probably pop off. No screws, nothing to hold that in place. Now it's off. It's been raining a little bit, but it's been raining straight down. And so here, there's no sealant underneath. If you look at manufacturers like Barrage and the major manufacturers, they always say to put tacky tape underneath this Z flashing. And then they say to caulk it along here where you see my finger. That's not done. So the water that did the damage inside here could have actually blown in right here. So it could have been leaking in the lap over too.
Yeah, I think so.
They've got some pookie on it, but it doesn't mean it's sealing it. In fact, as you know, it's not sealing it right there. Now here, the problem I have in Central Texas Metal Roofing Supply says the biggest leak problem they have is improper installation on these things. If you do not put tacky tape underneath and you do not seal this down through here, water can blow in when it's blowing hard. You also see these big gaps that anything can go through, including critters that could go down through there. Yeah, it's been leaking right here on this rafter.
Yeah, that one.
You can see pretty good. A lot of moisture has been right there, and this is right above where that leak is inside too. Okay, now that creates more problem because if you have air moving in here, pulling air in is going to pull more water up in these large cracks that they've got everywhere along here. Yeah, this is pretty horrific. There's no way this would hold water during a blowing rain. Okay, so again, this is just improper installation. Now, we've seen the short panels over there. We've seen the shortcuts they've taken here. Money-saving, time-saving shortcuts. Now, another thing that I keep seeing is the seaming was terrible. Right here, it's not really folded over total. The panel is the same here as it is on the front. This should have been a double lock panel, but you can see their seamer was messed up and it made this kind of square unit. So it's actually not, all of this is not double locked. But when you have a split panel, you have to put something around the corner because there's nothing to keep the water from coming back under this area right here and going behind the caulk. Putting a soldered corner in here. The problem with a split panel like this, And at this point, we don't know that the skylight's leaking. My guess is it probably is. There's absolutely nothing. So typically, Luis, what do? We take a corner 4 inches down. And once you go 4 inches down with a soldered corner, then the split sheet can come in and you're no longer relying on caulk. Okay, it's a little hazy this morning. I thought it was just not focusing, but it's hazy. So when we see things like this, they pop riveted together. Everything here at this corner is just pookied together, meaning caulk, sealants. And you see the dirt in between the top of the sealant and where the metal was attached on top. It was not really attached. So you had dirt and wind and rain flowing in at this area. Now along here, this is inevitably going to be a leak. This is not the first layer of caulk to be put on here. See, one's more white than the other. See the two different colors of caulking. Then you see the third color down here at the end. All along the top, they made their panels too short. So instead of remaking the panel, they just said to heck with it. There's another problem here too. The thing that's missing is on every metal roof panel. Eventually, these panels will start moving down. There's no screws, there's no fasteners, anything to hold these metal panels on. And if you read Barrage manufacturers' standards and specifications, it's required to have screws in it like this. We always put screws in it as we put the panel on, and then we put screws in it with the Z flashing on, so it usually has 5 to 6 screws in it. Along here you have nothing. So what's going to happen is those are going to start coming loose and these will crawl down. And that's why you've got to screw this along the top, guys, because the panels will eventually start moving from the expansion, contraction. If there's nothing to hold them like this, then there's going to start creeping down the hill, especially the more steep it is. Like there's nothing here to keep water from getting in under here. Yeah. And then as the caulk dries, the caulk cracks, it's going to run here. Once it gets past this level, it's into the house. Sad though, because when you put a metal roof on that's going to last 40, 50, 60 years on the metal, and have a place like this that you know is going to fail in 5 to 6 years, it's just a mistake. Rather have seen these clips every 24 inches for sure. And then there's 2 screw holes here for a reason. That's for 2 screws. It's the way they're designed, engineered. Okay, along this window, there's been a lot of leaking. Primary area is below this where the ridge came in. I've got the short 2 panels right there. And this has been a major source of the leaking. I'm guessing this is a contributor, but I don't think that's the bulk of it. I think the bulk of it is probably going to be found right in here. This is a real common problem that we see with re-roofing is, you know, they may have taken the trim off and the trim, but does that actually catch the water? You've got to get underneath the waterproofing. The water's got to come over from the waterproofing membrane in the wall, over the head wall flashing here, and then you've got a watertight seal. Again, they use window wrap. And they put the window wrap over here and over here, but you got water running out right now. Now the problem with this is window wrap will not, you cannot stick it onto the top surface like that and get it to work. Let's see if we can get the window wrap peeled off of there. I feel water in it. See that right there? Got water in it right there. And the flashing here has to go behind the membrane, behind the window flange. And then you can use tape over, it's okay, but you cannot shortcut that. This is the biggest leak in the house. Just like that, you know that's going to be leaking. Is this flashing has to be behind the membrane that is behind the flange on the window. Anything short of that, it always comes back to a leak. That's why they make the flanges on the windows. Retrofit windows, that's why I don't like them. They don't have a flange around them, they stick them in and they just rely on caulk, and eventually 5-7 years they always leak. Now sadly, everybody thinks that just putting tape on there seals it. It does not. You have to have the right process first. You have to have the flashing beneath the flashing on the window. But what you really want to see is you want to see that flashing behind the window flashing. Anything short of that is not going to work. Now, a lot of times you'll be down lower than the window, and so you'll be behind the membrane that is behind the flashing on the window, and that's what keeps it from leaking. So you see here, the window actually goes down to here. Here's the flange on the window. I don't know if you can see this, but it's got a good, like a 1 1/4 inch flange, and then the waterproofing is behind that. The problem is they've got the roof on, not behind. They got the roof flashing not behind the waterproofing, not behind the window flange right there. This is very, very basic flashing installation. If you don't have the flashing behind there, it's always going to leak. It's always going to leak. Maybe not the first year, maybe not the second year, but it's going to leak. All right, guys, I think we found the worst of it, and we know we got the same situation, just caulk and no soldered corner there at that. So that's inevitably going to come loose. That's going to leak. Same thing at the bottom. Same thing, lack of overlap of these flashings here. The corner, no soldered corner here. You've got the same scenario, no corner placed in here. Nothing to get that water out. And these are the areas that everybody's ignoring, and these are coming at us like crazy. We get calls every week.